Welcome to season 2, episode 2 of the Made in Dreams podcast, and it's gonna be a good one. We have my hetero life mate, Jamie James, the Emperor. I am your host, Mighty Vicious, and today, featuring with us, we have Scott. If you're aware on Twitter, it's at SZ738, and I believe you dropped the 8 for Dreams, correct?
I did. Well, actually, no. It should actually add that that's been my PSN ID, I think, since PS whatever. And yeah, Twitter wouldn't let me have anything but an 8 at the end. So it's awkward. It's a great name, good for marketing when you have a name that sounds like someone's password.
Perfect.
You've struggled with it well, that name. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Indeed. Thank you. So the reason a lot of people have been like, why are you so excited? Now, not once I show them your work, all the questions stop.
Oh yeah, they're going to be really excited.
But a lot of people are like, yeah, you seem really pumped. And I'm like, I am, because I have so many questions to ask. But before we get into that, please tell the people a little bit about you, where you come from, how you got to Dreams, the usual.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm a huge fan from Ragdoll Kung Fu. So I'm actually, in fact, I remember hearing about Mark Healy at Lionhead. So it's sort of, I'm obviously an older gamer. I'm just coming up to 50. So I've seen the broad spectrum of awesome stuff over the years. But I remember when we first saw LBP released or announced, I've never been so excited for something when I saw that, because it was the I can't believe you can make something on your console. That's just mind blowing. Because I came from a generation where we all had 8-bit computers and Spectrums and 64s and BBCs and everything, in the UK, and every single person had the potential to be a bedroom programmer. Like as soon as you bought a computer, if you didn't know how to actually write a little bit of code on it, you could just play a couple of games. But half the time, we'd end up just sitting around making our own games for ourselves, learning about coding, learning about computers and game mechanics, I guess, things like that. But every popular game when I was growing up was made by one person in a bedroom in a few weeks on an 8-bit machine. So of course we all went, well, we're going to make games. And I can't believe it took 30 something years to get Dreams in our hands. So you know what I mean? Like, it's taken that long for someone to work that out. Everybody needs this tool in their hands. It's just like having a word processor or Photoshop. You got to have it, and it took to work it out. So, sorry, Will, you were saying?
No. I talk about this constantly, especially last episode with Media Molecule and their representative Abby, was the fact that I've done podcasts for probably about 8 years now, and I've complained for all those years about I'm like, how come nobody has made like an educational game based around like basically a game engine that's able to do everything you can do within an engine? Like, why would you not put that in people's hands? It's education wise, it's like a no-brainer to me. And then when Dreams came out, I finally got my wish on that, and I was like, yes, this is what I've always wanted and been begging for years. So I back you on that.
Yeah, look, this is, I don't think, and again, it's maybe even a broader, this is obviously a huge conversation with people I speak to, is that you go, well, you've seen attempts at this over the years, really, really half-assed ones to like Spark and stuff, where they try to go, oh, you can make a game, you can pick from the 4 genres of gaming. Hey, don't get me wrong, they were like, there's actually a very, you can put the genres of gamings in a hat, but to just go shooter, third person, first person, platform, it's like that. But when LBP came along, what struck me about that, and I'm sure as well, and potentially Sony, was they went, well, people aren't just making platformers with this. They very quickly exploited those tools to make a calculator, to make a short film, to make third person games basically a 2-dimensional platform engine. And saying, and then go, 5, 6, 7 years down the track when people were essentially breaking the game completely to make things that you just wouldn't think have been possible in LBP1. I remember making Logic, because I love Logic. I'm an electronics nut from way back. So the Logic part got me early with LBP, but it was glass blocks and pistons and dissolve and stuff. So you had to make AND gates. You had to actually make the AND gate from like 3 or 4 different bits. to just have a switch. So we were having a lot of fun with just going, how complex can you get with this? And I used to get it's almost like electromechanical design, where you go, okay, let's make rods and pistons and things do what logic does, like a Babbage, let's make the Babbage engine in Dreams, but then obviously 2 came out. I think it was 2. The logic system was put in. So probably one of the absolutely best visual logic programming systems out there is the one that created for LBP, because essentially the LBP logic systems carry over exclusively in a lot of ways to Dreams's logic system. And that to me was like, finally, the beauty of writing code, the fun of doing electronics, all came together in a way that anyone could do this. And it was so incredibly brilliant that's what made me go, oh my God. And I mean, I work in post-production. That's what I do. So it does inform you a lot about how tools work and how visuals work and how to a lesser extent programming and integration work. But I was completely fascinated with LBP2, I think it was, and just built stuff. And my partner, she still builds stuff, and she's a Dreams creator as well now. But just seeing the fact that it was just the very first touch of that, where it was a very early Sony strategy to set up play, create, share. They knew they got from day one. They completely understood the potential of that company and the people that are heading it. And they obviously gave them some carte blanche, I think, with Dreams. And this is, again, LBP, everybody, I'm sure that touched Dreams has got to have touched LBP at some point. The magic is in there too. It's still there. It feels like you're using an extension of that concept. But I really think somewhere at there's a whiteboard that Mark probably came out one day and got his marker out and went, right. And when I want to be able to do everything without having to know how to do anything. Like, how do we do that? And I think they cracked it, because I mean, I think all the tools aside and everything else, Dreams as a piece of code and a concept, like an art concept, is really does deserve more recognition than it did receive, even though what it received was obviously cool. Because the coding expertise that's gone into somehow fitting this entire ecosystem into a single load, into a single environment on a console, a good console. But I've still got my PS4. I haven't got a PS5 down here because we're down in Australia. So good luck getting. You think you have trouble getting a PS5?
You have trouble getting it every day.
Yeah, no, we're just not even thinking about PS5 because there's no point. So anyway, I actually think the PS4 has still got a little bit of life left in it. Anyway, I don't think it needed to be put out to pasture quite so early, to be honest. But anyway, I find that the Dreams, the fact that Dreams runs on a console is an absolute achievement to get any of that to work properly the way it does. And the fact the thing rarely does anything that you don't expect is unbelievable. And I'm not really a pro, which should be on PC person, because I think the whole concept of Dreams and the whole concept of and I think Sony's very strong, very long tail strategy with Dreams ecosystem. I think Sony had this on their calendar for a long time. I think they know the potential of where this is going, but like all good things, they need to slow burn. And look at where Unity was 10 years ago. Not saying it's supposed to be Unity, or it should even try to be, seriously, because it's a reaction to these other tools.
Yeah.
And how to do it better without any of the white noise. But I think, again, I know the community over the last few years, maybe a couple of years, has been like, oh, there's not enough players, there's not enough creators. This is a common problem for all platforms that end up bearing fruit. And those people at the start and those people that endure and those people that support will actually end up, again, reaping those benefits of seeing a really strong platform that's actually grown in a sort of organic fashion through creation. Let's remind ourselves, there's nothing like this else. There's nothing else like Dream. There isn't. There are tools, but there is nothing even close to the, this sounds a bit silly, but sort of the emotional connection, the tangible connection you have with what you're creating on the screen. Whether you're in VR with Move controllers, a DualShock, whatever, you're watching stuff. The engagement in the way they've made. I mean, this is a clever thing. I hate mice, keyboards, drop-down menus. I hate them all. I hate everything. We use professional tools at work. Everybody does. Even when you're using a website, whatever, Photoshop, email package, it's all so ubiquitous that it is incredibly boring to work with. So if you're a creative person, a musician, an artist, and anything, coder. You want to be looking at something that makes your ideas feel like they're becoming tangible in front of you. And Dreams is such a good way of physicalizing the experience of creating, and that is absolutely unique. So I think, again, going back to what you were saying before, is that the way that I got into this was just seeing this very slow burn, and every time I saw an image or that first presentation with the guitars on stage, I'm like, oh, I know exactly where they're going with this. This is great sculpting and stuff like that. But I'm so proud of them as a company, and Sony as a corporation, to continue to back this thing through that development hell they went through. Alex Evans, obviously one of the lead architects of the code, he did a SciGraph talk I saw years ago at Ignite, I think it was, which is anyone that's in Dreams is worth a watch. It's a rough as guts on stage presentation, but it will blow your mind how much work went into getting this engine to be the thing it is, and that's why it's so special. The fact this is in your hands for like $50 on a console, you've basically all got a dev kit in your home, and that's something that 30, maybe 40 years ago, I just thought, well, we'll have that next week, and it took this long for someone to work it out.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible journey. I think I'm sure most creators would say the same thing, and I'm sure most creators use other tools, and every time they're using them, go, I just wish I had a DS4 in my hand right now.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add on there was you were saying about the PS4, like we've also said many times that the fact that something like this can even work on a PS4 is an achievement within itself.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait for PS5 for many reasons, mostly because my PS4 is finally trying to reach its final resting place. But yeah, like it really is weird that it took this long, and I feel like they played around with it. Like multiple companies played around with it. It was like the explosion of like Forge mode in Halo, and then you had LBP, which took it to almost its final stage. But everybody started putting into these like build with our engine thing. Well, I was like, well, why not just give us the engine? But I do want to go into the basically what you had said about the way that you create being boring within the industry, whereas Dreams kind of gives you this, build in front of you. Like you see all your tools, you see what you're creating, it brings something new. So I wanted to ask you about something that I've brought up to multiple people, and pretty much within the Dreams community, and pretty much all of them told me to shut up, was like, there's one thing I really want in the Dreams world, and no, James, I'm not going where you think I'm going with the other thing, because I always bring up the Power Glove and I always get shut down, but like the one thing I feel like Dreams doesn't do or doesn't allow you to create as quickly as everything else is basically line art. And I would personally really love for Dreams to have, like, to be able to take a tablet. Like, if you could get a tablet to do more drawing specific things within Dreams, it works better for me. But I believe that was one of the things you said or you just mentioned or alluded to being kind of like weird.
No, I think when I say tools, I think input's different. Like this is one of the Move controllers remember, these are 10-year-old peripherals too.
Yeah.
So these are, again, really forward-thinking peripherals for Sony, and of course, they knew they could be used in different ways. Remember when they came out, it was just a Wii competition thing, that came out to sort of go, we've got it too. Very Sony, but also, Sony love them dearly, but they can drop things like a hot rock as well. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be careful that. So the fact that if they still have Move controllers, they knew that when VR comes out, when Move comes out, those are, again, still in the marketplace, are unique input methods that you still can't. I mean, Martin Nieblom, I hope I pronounced that correctly, he's incredibly progressive with his use and promotion of the fact that he's sitting in a chair with Move controllers, building things, and he's got, professional CG and VFX artists around him going, what are you using? How are you doing that? And why can't we be using it? And they have to go back into the other room and use the 3-button mouse and the QWERTY keyboard and pretend like they're enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
So I think, look, to be honest, I think, look, honestly, they could have freaking foot switches and I'd be using them in dreams. I think any input methods are great. And again, I really wish I could remember all of the names that I've seen on the community over the last year, because there's some people out there that are doing some very outside the box, outside dreams kind of technical use of motion tracking and screen stuff. And you can just see it's people are trying to find ways to put stuff in. I think even Tap has you know, had his camera concept used recently in a thing where they're doing handheld cameras with a screen on a DualShock and looking around dream scenes in like you would on a James Cameron film. That's what they do now. They go, oh, look, you can walk around the set in virtual environment. Yeah, you know what, you can in dreams too. And this is the thing, is that this is how experiential this software is. And I hate calling it software, actually, because it literally, to me, transcends what we would normally call a creative tool. It feels more like a box of paint. It feels more like a lump of clay. It feels more like you're picking up a guitar. You know, and that's something you do not get from Autodesk. You do not get that from Adobe. And with all due respect to them, because they're all fantastic tools in the right hands, but they all have learning curves that aren't curves. They're like this. And the community is equally full of people that I think that are like, oh, I don't know if I want to do Dreams or Unity or I want to do Blender or I want to do this. The fact is that the tools are relevant at the end of the day. No one cares if you write a novel on a typewriter word processor or by hand. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. But your input methods are important. So I think if someone goes, like, for instance, I still don't use Move controllers. And it's driving me nuts because I feel like I'm like, oh, I really should like get used to those macros and that muscle memory and just get into it, because everyone that I respect out there says, yes, you should if you're doing anything with it, because it really speeds up your spatial work and everything else. I couldn't agree more. But then I see a lot of people going, I'm sort of on the DualShock, and that shouldn't work. I shouldn't be choosing a game controller as my primary source of input when you're sculpting or making something else. When we're working, when I've been working in the past in things like, say, Maya or something like that, we use tablets because I hate mice with a passion. If you have to use a mouse all day, you'll know why. So I've been using it. You've got to use a tablet. But my point is that I don't think it's a bad idea, because I don't think there's such a thing as a bad idea with Dreams input output. I think you know, let them eat cake. I think if someone wants to input with a boot that's plugged into USB, I think power to them. You know, I think you should make a judgment on what they made rather than how they did it. But I will also say, Will, that I think there's a propensity for people to go, here's a big laundry list of things that we should add. And that becomes a lot of white noise for MM, in the sense that there is obviously a roadmap for this journey for us all. There is something on the wall somewhere that says we're doing this. And we really have to trust them as a developer, because how have they ever let you guys down? You know, they've always, and also they've given you Dreams. So even if Dreams was buggy, crashy, and underwhelming, I'd still love it, because I'm like, it's still closer to what I want than anything else that's out there.
Yeah.
I think we would, sorry, Will, go for it.
Oh, no. I hear you. And part of the thing with a tablet for me is that, you know, it's all about what you're comfortable with. And the feedback, the pressure to line, like all that stuff transitions better to me than waving my hand with a wand. Not to crap on anybody who can. As a matter of fact, nothing but respect, because I just I'm like, yo, that mastery you have of that, but it's not intuitive to me. But I feel like the tablet would be. But to follow up on the idea of, you know, trust MM, I think all of us do. And I think there are, you know, you're always going to have those people that are way too gung-ho about, you know, they need to do it now. How dare they not have had this day one? Like, those people, just send them off to the corner. Like, we don't talk to them. But at the same time, it's like, I still say it's still good to let them know, because one of the things my friends brought up to me, he's in corporate world, pro style, like he's just like the suits, the everything, and he was like, you know, a lot of people don't realize that sometimes, because there's so many working pieces within a company, sometimes people don't realize that some things just don't get brought up. And he's like, that's why it's really important with things like Twitter now, that, you know, you have people coming at you always. Yes, some of it's going to fall away, because, I mean, really open yourself up to that type of influx in communication and it's going to go awry. But he's like, you'd be surprised how many things that you were like, that's simple. Of course they're working on that. But he was like, they've never thought of it.
Yeah.
So
if we've thought of it, they've thought of it 5 years ago. It's that simple.
Yeah.
I think it's the same with input options, output options. And again, a lot of people, myself included, I think there should be down the track some more output options, whether that's a subscription thing or something you pay a little bit extra for, that's fine too, just to make sure you're a registered user, or input, same thing, just to make sure you don't abuse the system. I mean, I won't go into it too much because I know you've had guests that have before, but things like audio limits and all the usual things that we consternate about, you know, they're things that aren't really MM's decision. And I think the fact that they strike a balance is still really, really good. But, you know, image import is something that I think is really unnecessary for Dreams. I hate to say it, but I think you should be able to use shots taken within Dreams in really different ways. That would be incredible. Like take a still using the Dreams camera, you can make a graphic for the background and save a bunch of thermo. That's brilliant because that can't hurt anyone. It's all made in engine. It's all on the cloud. It's all really easy to mitigate. Keep an eye on everyone that they're not using too much weird IP or something. Because you could say, well, it's just like Photoshop. Once you've bought the tool and you do it, it's up to you what you want to use it for, and they have no control over it. But the Dreamiverse changes all that. But the Dreamiverse is actually the biggest draw card for this thing, because we're so lucky that we're not even paying after we buy the software for an ecosystem that gives you social networking. It gives you upload, download, update features. It's no system is perfect. If you could use Unity, you're still banging your head against a million things. And a lot of people I've seen go, oh, well, I don't Dreams. I'm not going to get more than 10 people looking at my Dream. I'm going to go to Unity. You'll only get 10 people looking at your Unity game either, dude. Like, it's really, Dreams is such a great place to germinate an idea, and then you can take it somewhere else. But I think the more that this platform grows, I think you'll find that they are going to provide those features. They're just literally waiting for the community to see what they want, because you could give them everything. You know, I'm sure they went, well, we should have a list that comes up of everything that's in your Dream, so you can just click on what you want and go to it, like Kazmay has that. And I'm sure someone went, that's why we're not going to have it, because you don't need half the stuff that's in there. It's just a slow creep of software just failing to remove its obsolete elements over the years because people freak out. So if you're coming straight into Dreams fresh, you're like, oh, this is how it should be. Of course, this is great. Going to make some cool stuff. But if you're coming from old tools, you literally are going, oh my God, why can't I do this on this giant computer with this expensive software? And you can, but you can't do it in an hour. You can't do it while you get your feet on the couch. You know, I think the gateway drug for Dreams is that you can do it on your couch. And I think that's if you're a creative person, you don't want to be sitting bolt upright in front of a PC for too long, because you start becoming the computer. But look, I think just to bring it back to, I think all the input and output methods, regardless, I think if they are listening to people, but it's really difficult what they're doing. The fact that this software even QA'd, there's so many things going on in that software at once. It's incredible at how solid it really runs. So as I said, think about that. PS5 version doesn't even exist yet. So just imagine what they've got cooking over there. And they've had a dev kit for years.
I mean, like you just said with the QA, you know, like I can imagine the nightmare it was to actually test everything to make sure it all worked. And like someone in our chat, ODM Cobra, just said, you know, there is no or little to no crashes or glitches with Dreams at all. I mean, I've been playing Dreams since early access, and I've yet to have one crash or one glitch. And it's the environment that you would expect to have it in, because it's so unpredictable. Like, you know, and the fact that you see so many crashes and glitches in, you know, standalone games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for instance, you know, that's a complete separate environment and everything was designed within the engine for that purpose. And yet there are so many crashes or glitches or errors that pop up in that. But then you have this whole creational suite where you would expect 1,000,001 errors to happen because there is so much involved within the creational process of it. And yet there isn't one. And it's absolute credit to them that they've been able to create something so polished. And in my personal opinion, it is the most polished piece of software to come out on a console, period.
I agree.
There is nothing that is as polished as Dreams, because it is the type of software that you would expect to find 1,000,000 different glitches, because it's so unpredictable to account for everything that Dreams can do. And yet it doesn't. It's incredible.
Well, this is a great testament to when you do have something that's proprietary, when something is built on the iron that it's designed for, because it's a console, but they have squeezed every single kilobyte out of that thing and cycle out of that thing. And I think it shows. Whereas when you do, for instance, Valhalla, any of these multi-platform games, they're trying to balance between multiple console things. And I think, to be honest, you see it. I mean, it's the sad thing. We're like, next gen. We've done this. How many times have we done this? We go, new consoles coming out, new games. And for the first 6 months, we're playing last generation's games with a new coat of paint, and it's happening now too. I mean, as I said, I've done it with PS5. I'm not missing it because I'm not sort of excited by most of the games that are out at the moment. They look pretty. I'm sure they're a lot of fun, but I've got dreams. So I used to have this pile of shame of games that you buy and you never get around to. But I just in the last years I haven't bought anything really, because I've just been like, well, how can I play something that's sort of linear and crashy, as you said, and I can sit in dreams and just looking at an empty scene and it just puts a smile on my face. Well, that's kind of intimidating. You go, oh, that big clay box means I've got to do something. But I think to go back to what you're saying is that this is what reminds me about the 80s style stuff, is that they had to squeeze so much out of such a low amount of resources on a system, like let's say 64K. And there was a thing that really inspired me at the start, which was called Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, that was done by Sensible Software, I think, in 80, and it was running on the Commodore 64, and it was the closest that you could get to like making a game, but it was already scrollers and stuff. But my point was, it let you do music, sprites, backgrounds, make the game, do a front page. No one had ever thought to do that before, and the whole thing was running in 64 kilobytes, and it allowed you to make your own little game and send it to a friend and stuff. Or they could come over, because there was no internet. So my point being is that kind of spirit of being able to empower a player to be a creator is actually not a new thing, but the software and the hardware just had to take time to mature. And now you've got Dreams, which I agree with you completely, James, is that it's actually, it makes art. It's an art engine. It makes stuff. It makes stuff, right? But the actual code is the art. The way it was made and the way it even runs, the way it facilitates DualShock and Move Control and VR. I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. So I mean, I know every dreamer out there is telling everyone they know about this. I saw, I think, a tweet from, it was Elka or someone saying that I had to, every time someone asked me what I'm doing, my thing, and I had to say Dreams, it seems sort of passive aggressive. And I thought, yeah, that's a really good point, because we're all sort of, Dreams is the best, and we're all really passionate. We want to show the world why it's so different and so empowering. But it seems like, you're being kind of like, well, is it? And as soon as they hear it's in a console, they go, oh, well, I'm working on this system over here. And there's a lot of dreamers that go, I think I've had enough time in Dreams now, I'm going to go to Unity. And that's fine. Again, it's all good. But I think it's got such a future as a way to bridge that gap between learning and doing. Going back to what you guys have said many times, that from a tertiary point of view, it's like in the 1980s in Britain, they made sure there was a BBC Micro in every single classroom. Right now, that was just so people were exposed to computing. This should be in every single classroom, and it should be in every architectural classroom and systems design classroom and sculpting class, because it's so multifaceted. And the fact that it's so easy to accidentally start making music or accidentally start doing someone's face, you don't even realize you're doing it. You simply cannot do that with other ways. So I think schools could be almost replaced wholesale with a copy of Dreams, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up.
I'm very pro that.
We are actually trying to make that a reality. The Made in Dreams podcast is trying to launch something called Dreams for Kids, which is a movement to try and get Dreams into the hands of people that need it most, and to try and get it into the educational sector. So it is something that we're quite passionate about too. And we really believe that
I've been following that recently. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic initiative, guys. And I think this is you are seeing a few schools. I think there's a couple in Barcelona, I think, now that have a Dreams component to their game design course.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is I think any initiative like that is fantastic. And I think you'll find there's a lot of people in the community that I'm sure you've already touched base with that are really passionate about that. And there are quite a few educators I've noticed in the Twitter community, at least, that are using, like, I'd love to build some course material using this platform and then use it at school. So I think it's actually more about educating. I think the teachers can be convinced really easily, and I think the students can too. I think it's got more to do with the institutions need to be more agnostic about what boxes they're using. And funnily enough, if and this, I'm not saying they should do this, but if Sony just put out a little box that had dev kit run on the front and threw it in. I think they go, oh, great, it's this really genius thing. It just has PlayStation on it. But again, if young kids at school are learning on iPads with apps, I mean, you can get 20-somethings learning, game design and game mechanics and creative development on something. It really should be in every classroom. I completely agree.
And the biggest part of it for me is the fact that, like, I like the higher education, but as I was talking about with Abby last week, like, my whole thing is I didn't get to pick up a guitar until I was basically 20-something in college, and I always wanted to play. And now that I do play, I sometimes sit back and wonder, like, what could I have done if I got this if I was able to afford and get this when I was 5. So for me, like, getting this put into higher education is great, but getting it in the hands of, like, kids, for me, like, people who don't have, like, to be fair, like, their projection in education isn't really that bright. Like, those are the Einsteins that never make it out the corner. Like, those are the people that I would like to get this in the hands of before I even think about upgrading it to higher education.
It's an easy place to start because of the platform. But I think education with kids is all about engagement. As long as you can engage them, they'll learn. And I think with this, it's so easy to put a DualShock in their hand. Of course, they'll be quicker than the teacher. They know those 16 buttons better than anyone.
Yes.
And I think you're right, that breaks down the reason. Like, as soon as, I mean, again, in schools, remember, they gave you a little Casio keyboard to learn music or something, and you go, but the I see. It's interesting what you said about coming across things late, because I'm nearly 50 and I'd never sculpted a face before, Dreams. So I've done work in 3D and played with tools and done stuff like everyone has, but I've actually never sat down and tried to make someone's face. And with Dreams, I remember seeing those first times when they moved two spheres together and they kind of blended. I went, whoa, what's that? That's really, I remember watching Kareem do stuff, and then he'd dial something up, and I just went, okay, where's that in the tools I use? That looks like something, maybe it goes back to when I was in school and I enjoyed working with clay. That's really I get that more than UV unwrapping and meshes. So to see, so anyway, I mean, I like doing character heads now, right? But I never did that before. I didn't know I could even do a face. I haven't even looked at someone's face when I'm sculpting. I just start going in Dreams, and that's a real testament to the fact that if I could do that at my ancient age, then some kid is just going to go bam and just jump straight to their skill and straight to unearth their stuff. And as much as you go, oh, I wish I'd found that earlier. What a wonderful thing to be like halfway through your journey and come across a piece of software that allows you to unlock things that were there. I see this with everybody. Everyone settles into their groove in Dreams. You've got people that like Logic, people that like doing animation, people want to do just be voice stuff or audio work. Amazing musicians, like incredible musicians everywhere. But essentially, I think maybe you have said this or someone, I can't remember where I saw it recently, is that like we're like the biggest dev house in the world. Like we're all working on the same platform in different regimes, and in a way, they're trying to bring us together so that there's more collaboration. But I think you're going to find a lot of people have stumbled across their true skill using this. A lot of people have said, "Yeah, I'm a musician. I've just found I like doing buildings, and I just was never exposed to anything that would let me create something like this." I think it was a few years back, did something where they put, maybe it's during beta, they put Dreams in front of a bunch of people that have made stuff in LBP or used creative tools, and they gave Dreams to a bunch of people that have never used anything in their life to be creative. And they said the things they were most surprised about were what the people that had never worked with it before had done, because they had no preconceptions of what you should do. A CG artist is going to go, oh, it doesn't have this, or oh yeah, I like to work like that, or where's ray tracing at? I don't care. No one cares about that stuff. But I think they said that, there was a guy that worked at a, savings and loan that just went, I had no idea I could do this. Is that good? I don't know. So that's a really good way of showing it. Yeah, you put this in young kids' hands, you will very quickly see what they gravitate towards. And that's a great way for educators to find very quickly where to focus on them. But with people of a certain age as well, it's a wonderful way to sort of feel fresh and find new things.
Yeah.
And I think,
go ahead.
Sorry, go on. Oh, so I was just going to say, I think they will get it eventually. I mean, what we have to appreciate as well is although we all love Dreams and we know what it's capable of because, we've been playing it since it came out, all these other programs like Maya and Unreal Engine and, all these other well-established creational suites that's been around for the age of time, the reason why they have a name for themselves is because they've had their feet in the sand for so long. Dreams is within its second year. It's still a baby right now. And I think once Dreams evolves to the point where, we've seen creations that's made within Dreams that we would not think would be possible at all, such as Bad Robo, for instance. I mean, the creations that he creates, you would never, ever think that was made within Dreams. And I think once the audience of Dreams becomes more mature within the software itself, and we see a lot more things come out of it, at that point, then I think people within the industry will start to appreciate what Dreams is actually capable of, and at that point, it will be utilized to its fullest.
I agree. I mean, it's a big conversation, all that sort of, but I think certainly Dreams' strength in if you want to talk that sort of industry professional market, is its speed and its immediacy.
It's turnaround time.
Because that's what you don't get, like instant gratification. So you could, I mean, I've pushed Dreams in front of a few people in the film and television industry in ways that we can, just because obviously, you don't want to force anything on them. But for instance, we have done a few things recently where they would want to pre-visualize, like say a set, like just a location, and not a visual effects thing or something like that. Just a set, 4 walls, where the chair's going to go, where's the camera going to go. Because Dreams uses real world metrics and proper cameras, like proper lenses, you can talk to a DOP and say, well, okay, what are you going to be on here? And he goes, well, I want to be on an 85mm lens and I want to put the door here. So you can say to the production designer, let's look through it. Do you want to look at it in VR? Do you want to walk around it in third person, first person? Do you want to put a light in here in real time? That looks pretty cool. Great. Okay.
10,
save
15
that off.
minutes tops.
10, 15 minutes. And not only that, you can just, there's nothing that works quicker. Now that's at a really basic sense where you can just build, like I know people have designed their kitchens and things in it too. This is kind of what I'm talking about. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So I want to take this moment to really go into, because a lot of people are really loving hearing you talk about Dreams, and you're getting some good feedback here in the chat. I want to take this time to kind of switch to our other screen so I can show what you've worked on and really start my line of questioning.
Because there's a lot of questions.
Yes. Okay. So first I'll just have the reel going, but if anybody has been looking at your stuff on Twitter, it's absolutely breathtaking and just ridiculous. It's one of those people, like, your creations for me is like, I guess every artist has this, but for me, I always look at certain artists and I'm just like, man, I suck. And so, like, I mean, the first time I saw, because my whole thing is with Dreams is that I've always wanted to be in cinema and make movies and do stuff like that. And so that's always been my main approach in Dreams. It's just like, oh, finally, I have the ability to, put stuff together, make an animated film or movie or whatever. And it's literally, I don't have to have a budget. Like just to get started, just to do anything. And so your style really, it's everything I want to do. It's like it like encapsulates everything I've wanted to be able to create myself, which is why I've been so excited about having you on for a really long time. So,
oh, you're too kind. Well, I'm happy to, anything you need to know. Okay. They're all simple tricks. This is the thing. It's all really simple stuff. This Dreams makes it so easy.
Well, I'm glad you said, let's go.
Did I say that? No.
So here we go. So when you posted the footage that everyone's able to see in the video, you said that this project, you had to make it for a production, a fake game for TV in 24 hours?
Yeah, so let me just give you a bit of background on this, because this is something I wanted to tell the community on Twitter, just because I thought this is just a different use of it. And look, it's a really obvious use of Dreams is to make a fake video game, but we were already working on a TV show that's produced here in Australia, that I can't say what it is, unfortunately. I really wish I could, but it hasn't aired yet, so I'd like to talk about it. But we've been doing just some bits and bobs for them. But they said, oh, we've got this scene where someone has to come in and they're playing like a Doom style game, and there's a bit of conversation. The game's not really part of the plot or anything like that. It's just a prop. I mean, it's like having something on the television when you walk in. But with TV shows that are syndicated globally, they can't just use Doom or something. It doesn't work like that. It just can't. It's hugely expensive and really boring to organize. So quite often TV shows will just make bespoke stuff. They'll make the websites, the content, everything is for the show, so that everything's in the universe. So they actually said to us, can you guys do anything about that? Now, that was a few years back. We'd have gone, do we have to? Okay, I guess we could grab Unity and I'll make something I'll kit bash something real quick, but it'll look like, it's not going to look that great in a day. We had a day to have it playing back on set. And what they thought we'd do is they go, well, we'll just, which they do in shows like, they'll just go to some forum and license. They'll credit someone for their student work, some unfinished thing. And I've used those in the past and gone, it just doesn't look real. And it doesn't look AAA, let's say. So the director actually says, it's got to be a AAA game because I want to show that this person's like just really obsessed with like these games that everyone's playing. We couldn't have a name for it. And he just said something like Doom. It's due in the morning. And in the morning, we threw something together in Dreams that was actually a huge amount of fun and a really good learning experience on how to work quickly, because that's what it does best. And you just forget about that when you're working on stuff for months, that you can just bang something out. But I should say that it was ready the next day. It was playable, which is, they never do that on TV shows. They was holding an Xbox controller playing a PlayStation while a Nintendo game, something like that. Yeah. And it always frustrates me. So we actually threw together 3 minutes of the game very quickly from scratch, and it was ready the next morning. And they were really impressed, because they just went, I don't understand how that's possible. And that gave us a good way to say to this production, hey, this is the tool we use. Maybe you guys should start using this more for previews. Maybe you should start using it more for set design. I mean, it's cheap. It's right there. So yeah. So this is what we did, I think, is what you're going to show.
And did you create this solely by yourself, or did you have any help?
Yeah, with it? Look, I'm a bit insular, so yeah, it's just me doing my thing. But everything in there is there's obviously nothing from the Dreamverse, because I just wouldn't do that, because that would just be I don't think that would be right to use people's stuff, as tempting as it would be, because there's such great stuff out there. But no, it was just a case of making some like 10 little set pieces, a wall, a pipe, a grill, the usual. Just do a quick kit in an hour. Throw a couple of fully animated monsters together that shoot at you, that have animations so quickly. And they're not very good, so don't judge me on those silly blood explosions. Don't
you start.
No. Everybody is not allowed here.
No, right, that's right. No, you're right. No,
everybody in chat.
Is Rembrandt.
Every like the person in chat, let me catch you up. They said, "Yep, I suck. I feel it now." and just as you've been talking, there's been little things where it's like, but with models from the Dreamiverse, I assume. And then you're like, no, it's all for me. What? Like, people, this is why I told you.
Well, look, to be honest, when you actually, if I showed you what they look like, if you turn all the lights off and you actually looked at them without, it's a few rough edges here and there.
Yeah, that's regardless, though. I mean, when I saw your tweet, I assumed that it had Dreamiverse content, but now you've told me that this was all, from scratch within a day, is just beyond my reconciliation. I just don't know how you've managed to do what you can do, and it just looks so polished as well. It's so
I didn't mean it. Well, I meant it to be, but I didn't think it would. And I think Dreams, again, it's like you're saying, a good guitar. You go, I can't play, and then you play a good instrument. You go, well, actually, I can. I just need the right tool. I think with that one too, I should explain the process really briefly, just for people so they understand that when Dreams is used outside of the Dreamiverse, you do have to contact MM and actually go through a process with them just to make, so obviously to see what it's for. It's a really easy process, but you've got to be, on, PSN name. You've got to be, using Dreams for a while. You've got to show that you're a decent creator, as far as you won't tarnish their reputation. So what we actually did was we just said to them, well, look, we're doing this, and is this all cool? And they do actually have a list of things. And one of the things is that it's got to be all original. You can't use things from the Dreamiverse. And I think that's a really good point to people if they're confused about how Dreams can be used externally. It's like, again, I keep using Photoshop as a reference, but it's like if you just grab something off the web and use it, you can't do that. You've got to make it yourself, and you can. So as the Dreamiverse is an incredible resource for people building Dreams content. But to be honest, as soon as you work off platform, it has to be all bespoke and made by the actual PSN ID that you're saying this is made by. So I did it all myself. That long night, but a fun night. And as I said, I learned so many more techniques. So I'm going to have to do more fast things. This is why I'm always tempted to do a community challenge, just because I think it pushes you out of your little safety box. But then that's why I don't do it, because I go, oh God, I'm terrified now that I'm not going to have it ready, or it's not going to be what I want it to be and stuff too. So I always commend anyone that can bang out things quickly.
After what you've
I'm sorry, James, what was that?
After what you've produced here, I don't think you need to be worried about jams anymore. You can just go ahead and go in and do your thing, and you'll be fine.
No, you're too kind. It is playable, but I think once you've killed the 20 enemies, it just goes that's all there is. So it's a funny thing is, at one point they actually said, because in the script it's an online game, and I said, well, do you want me to put little names above the people, because it's as easy as putting a text tool on them, typing something in, and it's done. And I'm like, this is just, everything is just so immediate and quick. Every little question they want, I can just go, what, like this? And they go, oh yeah, actually no, take those off, that's cool. But again, it's that fluid immediacy. There's so many different ways to use this tool in different environments, different regimes. But in the production community, this is just one use of it. And as I said, it is a playback thing. It's a prop. But I don't think Dreams has been used as a playback prop in a thing before. And when this show comes out, I'll mention this show. It's got a famous person in it and everything. But even though we've managed to get Dreams in the credits, which I'm really pleased about.
Wow.
Nice. I think it's game software, or it's something that sounds nice, but it does go Dreams, because I'm quite happy. Anything we can do. I know no one reads credits anymore, but I think it just starts building up a culture that people go, oh no, we're seeing it pop up here and there. And I think as soon as you do, I remember clients saying to me, if you're basically not doing it in May, you're not doing it properly. And I think that's ridiculous. So I think there will be a day when people say, they'll be, very soon they'll be saying, no, this was proudly done in Dreams, because just, look at it. You couldn't do that any other way. So what's your argument?
All right. I want to make sure people, like, you're hearing what people are saying. From Talk33 in chat, he says, don't take this the wrong way, but you make me sick. And that's we have a bunch of people that are like, one day what? And Spicy said, I want to leave the Matrix, please. This is too much. So
no, look, I think, I do feel I need to be humble, because it's the tool that makes that possible. So I'm just trying to say, and this is a good point to make, is that, like, for everyone out there, it really is as quick as that. It's just a case of knowing what you want to make, and just understanding the tools enough to do it. It's really not that hard. I'm a big fan of breaking down what you need to do into smaller components. So if you go, well, it's a hallway, well, then it's got one wall section, one pipe. Every AAA game out there uses like 10 assets. You just don't see it. So, it's a funny thing that the speed of Dreams and the immediacy of how you can slam things together. I think I threw some audio in at the last minute, and I think it went out mute, because in TV shows they'll just redo all the sound design and put something way cooler in. Also, they don't know editorially what they're cutting to, and it just makes it easier. It's another reason they said not too much UI in the game, because if this is made for TV, we don't need all this crap on the screen. This is just what's on there normally. So we just put a little reticule in the middle just to show it's a game. But I think there's two characters, two puppets that I quickly smashed together, put them on some follow behavior. To be honest, when they're shooting at us, it's actually a button I've set up just so when they're facing me, I can have them shoot at me. Because the logic's quite easy to do, but I didn't have time to sort of put in gameplay logic so that someone could play it and have fun with it. But you can run around in it for a few minutes and shoot things and go, wow, the blood fleck is really over the top. But that was what the director said. He said, really bloody, but we realized we had to keep it just under that gory thing, just so from a ratings point of view, we didn't upset Sony or the producers.
So let's I got one more question here for this. Are there any Easter eggs in this that, like, did you put something that, like, was your signature in this scene that when it plays on TV?
It's really tempting to. Actually, it's funny because even though I was bleary-eyed the next morning, and I think, what did I do? It was something where I was like, I should have an ammo reload or something, just so you could, maybe some boxes lying around. And I think I put something on the boxes. I can't remember now. That's how tired I was. But I think too is it's awfully tempting to put in something that you'll go, someone's name was passed or something like that. When you work in TV and film stuff, you do that at the start. You go, I'm going to put my name on a billboard or something. in the background. But the more you do it, the more you go, oh God, that's, getting over the credits is probably okay. But it's actually, it was playable. I actually think they ended up just running it and having someone else do it because the actor had to do lines and things like that. So I think they mimed it anyway. But technically they could have run around. I think it did have a title screen. I did a title screen. I think it was something ridiculous called like Bone Marrow Warriors. It was supposed to be some violent game, so we called it something really stupid, but it didn't need it, so we just took it off. But again, it's saying, do you want to start screen? Do you want a fake menu with options? I can put all that together pretty quick. But just finishing what you were saying is that, look, it's the quickest thing out there, and although doing something quickly doesn't mean doing it any better, if you just want to test an idea, you can sketchpad out a game concept in hours. And then, honestly, a couple of lights and use the grading tool a little bit, and you'll be surprised how good it gets. I really wish I had a before and after of how basic that little set is I built for it. And it's actually completely monochrome, so there's no colors on anything. Like everything's got no. I think the enemies do, but the environments have zero colors, textures, anything. I just went, no, I'll do it all with lighting. And then you just paint the set with greens and reds and things and backlighting and highlights and things. And it gives the effect of textures. It gives the effects of a lot more work. So that might be why it looks a little bit more finished. It's just because instead of antagonizing about every piece, it's incredible how much you can do with just the lighting system. And it'll like everything I think is that I've sent through to you just to stick up there. Most of those things are just absolutely 50% gray. And then everything else is done with lights.
So just for the people who are just getting here, because we had a few people that showed up, to catch you up, this is basically a fake game that was created in 24 hours for a television production. We're speaking with Scott on Dreams. It's at SZ73. And on Twitter at SZ738. And we're just basically going through his process. As I was telling people, for those that have been paying attention to the podcast, I've been hinting at this for a long time because this excites the hell out of me. I like his work has been blowing me away on Twitter from just what I could see, like for months now. It's ridiculous, but I wanted to go because you started to go into your work on character sculpts, and I put up the video now for people so they could see like the different character sculpts and the style that you've been working on. And like, tell me a little bit of how you like, what's your process as far as this goes? Because I see it as being really, it's just an interesting style. Like
it is very, very different. For the Dreamiverse, at least, it's very unique in regards to what other stuff I've seen myself on the Dreamiverse. It has a very different style to it. It's really nice.
Well, I do appreciate that. I think to answer that, it's because I've never done that before. So before like I said before Dreams, and I'm talking maybe a year ago, I'd never sculpted a face in my life or even tried to. I didn't think. I didn't really never really had the need to. The tools are so different, and I know so little about what I'm supposed to, how a face should look, that I think I just went for it. So, but this is why I love it Dreams so much, because it just usually I'd be held back by, I don't know, just say it was ZBrush or something like that, where you go, I'll put symmetry on, start putting things down, and it's great and everything, and there's a lot of similarity there. But I tend to work off grid now, so I'll do things asymmetrically. So instead of just having eye and you do one side, I tend to sort of go, and I'll try and do it all in one sort of sculpt. So I start with just a cube and just keep building it out until it's a face. So it always ends up being 1%. So all my sculpts are 1%. But but what's really cool about that is that I think Kareem used to do this too, is you can light it while you're working, and you can move lights around and get highlights and sort of sculpt while you're seeing actually all the interaction with the environment and the lights, which is really unique. So quite often, I think initially, I have to actually admit this first, is after seeing all the videos of Dreams before we got to touch it, I couldn't wait. But that first 2 days using the sculpting tools, I got so frustrated because I was like, this is not working for me at all. I just don't get this. And it was because I've actually used some tools in the past, and I went, I'm trying to do things that, where's the 4-up view? Where's all the, and it's just like, you're a moron. Just grab the controller and just put something in. So I think I don't have my sculpts from the beta because I was using my partner's beta account because I couldn't get in. But I just work with spheres and toroids really, and then use hard edge tools to do cuts. So quite often, I mean, your secret sauce is always the soft blend. That is just such an addictive way to work, is where you can just push and pull things just gently. So quite often, I've done some time lapses just for my own reference where you'll sculpt. And of course, it's always, if this is the screen, it's over here because I've messed with the camera so much. I'm sculpting from sort of 20 feet away. So, and then I watch people like Martin do these incredible things, and everyone's coding and everyone's just rotating stuff around. That is something that I haven't done. So I tend to block out the face, like literally do a skull shape almost, then block out the sort of the character you want. And it always looks pretty bad at that point. And then you just go in and then you just cut. So you just subtract with soft blend things in. You can get incredible creases and details and things you actually don't think you could. Try doing that in other modeling software with such a cohesive surface. And I actually like being loose. So I grew up with things like, you know, Plimpton and all these animators and artists that did this really wacky, almost psychedelic almost looks to people, you know, sort of twisted and deformed and weird proportions, which is very much hip again now. But Dreams really lets you sort of break the rules of what you should be doing. But I honestly don't know what I'm doing. And that would be the answer. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm letting Dreams help me see what's in my head. I've never looked at a picture. I had a picture next to me or looked at someone's face or anything. I just start in Dreams and just push it around till I go, oh, that's feeling like my brain understands that as cheekbone or anything else. So you can learn really quite organically about, especially about anatomy. I think if you're doing an arm or a hand, you start really paying attention to all the components that make up those things. I'm sort of stunned that I hadn't done this before Dreams and went, oh, I can sculpt a face. That's cool. And then it got really, really addictive. And I've done a lot more than I've shown. Because these are all going to be used in a project I'm working on. Not all the sculpts, but the techniques. So my idea is to put these heads on characters and actually have them in the game. So I've got them talking and doing all sorts of cool stuff at the moment. With some different techniques, but just really to find cheap ways to do lots of different faces in a scene and actually have them do basic things. But yeah, it's a different look. It's not, it doesn't necessarily work on a puppet, those things. Quite often if you look around them, they get kind of a bit weird from the side and stuff. So I'm still learning a lot, but I do appreciate the feedback from people because I actually see so many sculptors out there. I wish I could do it the way they do. And this is what I love about Dreams. Everyone's got their own groove and it doesn't matter. There's something special in everyone's work.
My question, which you kind of went over there, was like, are these for a game or a side project? Because they mostly, if I had to put a feeling, not the look of it, but just the feeling of it, it felt like a Disco Elysium. If you've ever seen that game.
No, it's funny you say it because look, it's funny because I mean I haven't really even thought much about the details of what I'm doing too much, so I haven't really mentioned it to anyone. But I will say, it comes from that kind of era and that kind of gameplay mechanic. I actually haven't played it. I was thinking about it a few weeks ago. So it's funny you mentioned it because I know that it's a bit of a grittier way to approach investigative stuff, and it's got a lot of interpersonal stuff. And I actually dig that. I would never try to do anything so complicated, but you're absolutely, the grittiness and the maturity of it, I think, is something that I really appreciate. Definitely.
Yeah. So like, I mean, because I thought you were going to go for the, have models that kind of look like these and then do the whole like picture off to the side of the text that pops up for them.
I've actually been playing with that. I love that when you do a picture-in-picture box and you have the head talks to you and everything. Again, it's you see why they did that back in the day, because it's a resource thing, right? You go, I can't just have everyone being like, it's not an Ubisoft game. I can't have everybody just in cutscenes constantly. There's such a temptation to go, I can see the game and the cutscenes in my head. It's way cooler than what I could ever do. But that's not saying Dreams is not capable of it. It's just saying that I just would see that level map and all the things I've got to do and go, you've got to pull it back a bit or you'll just never do it. So to answer your questions, I actually want to have, dialogue and voice acting, all sort of stuff. But the idea is that, it should be almost like the comms in Metal Gear, it should just be, here's this person you're talking to, here's you. There's so many ways you can do it. And again, it's so tempting to just zoom the camera up on the actual face, have the puppet turn to camera. There's so many ways you can do it. But yeah, you're right. The idea is to create a sort of a motley crew of characters that you get to meet along the way, and that way, at least when you are talking to people, you feel like you've met someone. again, doing bodies and clothing, everybody seems to really struggle with that too. I think everyone goes, oh, it's just so much work to get it to look right on a puppet, especially.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about limiting your idea a bit to sort of fall more within what you're capable of and what the platform's capable of. And look at some of these older style games. Like I loved all the old point and click stuff. I grew up with all the old Lucasfilm games and Monkey Island, all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of point and clicky, let's say. But again, what you can do in Dreams is you can go, yeah, it's like that, but then you can push in on something or do a cut scene. I mean, that excites the hell out of me, that you can just cut to just like, oh, here's some shots of the city while we're doing something else. Being able to get in the car and drive across town to another location. Let's, try doing that back in the 64K days.
We actually have a few requests for you to upload. Where is the comments here? Yeah, they want to see your process. So like some time lapse maybe of when you're working. Actually,
yes. Well, as I said, I'm coming out of the clouds now with your podcast. So I actually have been on the outskirts of the Twitterverse, instead of going, oh, everyone's so talented and I don't know quite what I'm doing. But I think I understood where I'm going with it now. And I actually would like to, I will put up some stuff there just about general sculpting tricks, because although there's nothing no one wouldn't have already learned from some of these other fantastic people that put so much time and effort into putting shoots up, I think everyone should put something up just to show the diversity of everyone's ideas, because even one idea that you've never seen before is like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I mean, even just the other day, I saw something that people are like, I didn't know you could destroy joints. It's like, yeah, and John Beach is like, of course you can. It's Dreams. You guys you need to dig in there. We're not going to tell you what everything does, and that's awesome. There's no manual. There's no manual for this thing. Although there should be a big, thick book you can buy.
Cool. I mean, that's kind of what TAP has already done, right? Has made that huge book.
But yeah.
So.
PDF thing, yeah.
But the
totally. Oh, look, because actually the community is phenomenally talented with these.
Yeah, I approached you about posting your process a while back on Twitter. And I was like, do we have a video? And you were like, soon. I was
No, I know. Well, I know it's funny because Tap did actually ask me, he goes, how'd you do the reflections on one shot or something? And I said, oh, look, normally I would just go, here, do it. But I actually want to show how it's done properly, because it's actually really easy. But it's, again, yeah, I want to do more. I know not everyone's on Twitter too, so I would sort of go, I'll put something up on YouTube. And actually, that will be soon. I'll throw some things together and also be able to expand more on what I'm doing with some other stuff too. Because as I said, I've only just learnt the tools now. It's taken a couple of years, I think, for all of us to work out kind of how it works. And I think especially in the last 6 months, a lot of creators I'm seeing, you can just see it's starting to, a lot of people are getting a lot more refined and getting their production values are going up. And it's not all about graphics and polish and audio polish, but it really does help people's perception of Dreams as a platform and the type of creations that people are making. And I think now you're going to see all these things turn into slightly more refined products where people are going to start collaborating more with these really clever people. But yeah, part of that is sharing the knowledge. And that's why people like Tap and so many other people are out there that are Saku and a bunch of people that are actually taking the time to show their skills. It's part of the culture of Dreams is sharing.
Indeed. And I want to go into the next piece, which is all your work is amazing, but this is something I've wanted to talk about for God knows how long now. As a matter of fact, it was the first thing I reached you about because I wanted to know what exactly you were saying. You have these long form, or I think you called it long exposure Fleck experiments. And
yes,
I need you to explain what that is, because the way I took it is that not all of the images on the video that I'm showing, but most of them, it sounded like you were saying you were using 100% Fleck to create the cities.
Yeah, so there's two things. One is the Fleck experiments thing was just kind of just a bit of technical fun, just to see what happened, how much, because I'm a big fan of Fleck, obviously. It's actually not a perfect component of Dreams because it's noisy, it's cycle intensive, so it slows down gameplay. It's not super efficient, but it gives you these abilities to basically provide atmosphere, because you can only do so much with the fog tool. You can only do so much with the built-in fog and camera fog and stuff. I love Dreams, but it does have that painterly look, which tends to make it very clearly a Dreams thing, which isn't a bad thing, because it's a unique look, and I love its painterly impressionistic look. Absolutely. but I was just trying to find ways to sort of cheat the flex system so you could soften out that to give it a more sort of powdery feel. Now, when you do that, your console melts. So that doesn't, the problem is that if you do it, the game will really like want to crash. It doesn't, but it really gets close to it. So the Flex Experiments thing was just a way to say, well, what happens if I just rendered every frame out separately? And I gave it like 10 seconds to settle using the camera ghosting. So what it is, if I turn the camera ghosting off in those, it just is a noise. It looks terrible. It's just fizzing. It's all really, really like 8-bitty looking and stuff. But as soon as you put on your camera ghost, it almost works like an oversampler. So what it does is it just compares each frame to each frame, and over a few seconds, all the noise goes away. The problem is if you move anything, it has that huge streaky effect.
Okay.
So the way around that was so what I've done, and this is Tap got this straight away, is you just set up like a 10-minute camera. So one keyframe here, one keyframe here, and you allow that camera to just over 10 minutes, very, very slowly translate through your scene. You turn all the stuff on, turn camera ghost on, because the camera's moving so slowly, you actually don't get the streakiness. And then you speed the video up by like, I think by like, 1,000%, and you end up with a 4-second clip of it moving very carefully through completely noiseless environment. Now, of course, that's not really useful to dreamers, because that's not something you can do in the Dreamiverse. It's a trick, but it was a way of going, okay, that's the look I want, but I can't do it that way. So I put those up just to say, well, here's just another way of using dreams to maybe, maybe output options, Media Molecule. You could give us a frame record output. So what would happen is that when we want to record out, say a cutscene, you say, I want to output this to a video using Share, or maybe there'll be some inbuilt feature. And you say, let each frame be oversampled. Like, remember, was it Gran Turismo with photo mode, right? And you'd move around the car, and then when you take the photo, it goes, give me a minute. And it sits there for 15 seconds going, okay. And you get this incredible 4K image that looks way cooler than the game, but it looks like a cutscene, right? So you could basically frame record out, and then when you finish, you get a bunch of PNG files on your console or something, and you put it back together. Now, these are all silly things that only get used by like 5 people, but it's just another way of having fun using dreams in different ways to try and get past its shortcomings. The other stuff that, what was good about that process is that I'm like, okay, that's the look I want, but I want that so you can walk around it, and so you get good frame rate. And then it brought me back into them playing with these other ideas, which are now working a lot better, where that look essentially can be done in quite an efficient scene now, just understanding how to balance the grading tool, the flex settings, the waxiness, and all there's a lot of little ways you can. It's literally 1% on sliders too. If you just get them all right, you can get it to hold for certain shots. And I'm working on obviously a game at the moment, and that's going to use all these tricks to try and give each location a very volumetric, atmospheric look that is still inherently a dreams look. I'm very happy to embrace their gorgeous look. It's just a case of just giving it some depth and atmosphere. And again, like you were saying, Will, is just a sort of cinematic kind of look, like a focus on lighting and composition and atmosphere, and then you can tell a story within that environment.
That answered all my questions.
I'm just speechless, to be honest. I mean, you're such a modest, humble person, and yet the creations that you're putting out is just mind-blowing. It's just such a pleasure to talk to someone so talented that yet doesn't really appreciate how talented he is.
Well, no, you took up. But look, as I said, I find when I'm looking at especially stuff on the Dreamiverse, I can't believe that things have just that people are capable of what they've been putting out. And there's some, as you said, it's like Robo and Cremio and I mean, so many of them that are just putting out scenes that I'm like, there you go. People are getting really close to that. They're starting. You can see the maturity happening with understanding the tools and understanding cameras. I mean, again, from a cinematic point of view, it does help to learn about why a camera looks the way it does when you watch it in a movie. You would. Yeah.
It's 1-to-1 in dreams. You know, if you understand how camera angles work in film, and you know the reason why they shoot things the way they do, you do it in dreams, and you're going to replicate that look. Absolutely.
I mean, look, it's not for everyone, and I don't think it works for every dream. But we're seeing such great stuff across the board in character animation and full games. I'm not saying they'll have to be polished, but you know, in every production department, in every game dev studio, there's people that come in and they polish. And they And that's the same with audio. It's like if you're sweetening audio, you know, you go, wow, it sounds so much better now. I don't know what you did. And it's all compression and EQing and clever use of audio. Visuals are the same. It's really tempting in dreams to go, oh, well, there's a light, there's a thing. But when you look at it, it's just one moving. You only need like 2 lights to light a scene. You know, grading tools incredibly powerful. Tone mapping is really, really powerful. I use letterboxing quite a bit just because I like to change the aspect ratio because it does help you. It's not really a cinema thing. It's more saying, you've just got to work within a sort of a canvas, and 16 by 9 is a really boring canvas. I hate to say it, and not because it's not a great shape, it's because everything is the same shape. So you go, every single canvas in the art gallery is this shape. So if you went to an art gallery and every painting was on the same aspect ratio, you'd be like, okay, this is all very similar. So again, using things like pillar boxing, letterboxing, vignetting, lighting to just like let a whole side of the image just roll off to black. Give your player focus on the doorway you want to go to. These are all tricks that all the big dev studios use all the time to lead their players, and it's all through lights and cameras and angles and composition. So a little bit of polish. It's honestly 5 minutes polishing any dream, and you'll just go, how can it look like that so good? And that's because Dreams does have its secret sauce, which is that beautiful creamy lighting engine. And the fact that it's kind of, it lets you abuse the tools. You know, everything plugs into everything else. And you can actually, I've seen people do things like exposure correction when you go outside, just things you wouldn't notice when you're playing, but you go, oh, that's why the big games look cool. You know, it's because there's these little extra flourishes. But yeah, look, certainly with things, I mean, I love reflections, obviously, because everything's got a reflection in it. But you can't do reflections in dreams, right? You can't do transparency, can't do reflection. Well, yeah, you can. You can do transparency and you can have reflection and you can have all sorts of things. It's just a cheat, like every engine cheats. Unity cheats, Unreal cheats, everything cheats. Even ray tracing is actually a cheat. Even when it's ray tracing, it's a cheat. It's not real ray tracing. It's not real ray tracing. And that's the thing, is that you go, these box quotes, and they're like, oh, well, for instance, I know people go, well, when are we getting ray tracing in dreams? Is that happening? Bad use of resources. I would rather have bigger levels, more thermo any day than shiny reflections, because you can do them stylistically. If you want a cloud, make a cloud. You know, that's the thing, is it just enables anyone to kind of create anything they've got in their head. And I think in that respect, I tend to work at the end and then work backwards, and that's my curse. I'll do a scene and go, okay, that's how I want it to look, and that's how it works. And then I'm going to go, right now I've got to go and reverse engineer all this back into gameplay. Whereas the smart way to do it is you block it out with cubes, make the gameplay work, and then dress it up later. But the problem is, you do find, this happens in other industries too, you get halfway through and you just never get around to the polish. So you've got a great game, but it looks like a tech demo. And perception of dreams at this early stage is important. And we're seeing some amazing examples of like Snow Gardens and other ones, which are just really, I mean, there's so many others, by the way. I'm only using simple examples, but there's so many out there where you can see that there's as much care has gone into the UI and the sound design, or the color choices, because those are the things you don't realize when you play larger games and indie games, especially. As much effort goes into the art direction as goes into the game itself. Because a lot of the times you're saying, well, the world you want to inhabit, the characters you want to sympathize with need to feel tangible. And I find that, I mean, I love Blue Puppet. Blue Puppet's my stand-in. He's always in the wings, ready to run out and be abused in the level. And in all my stuff, there's a Blue Puppet because the main characters aren't finished. And I actually prefer to have a Blue Puppet in there because I know I'm not done. That's kind of, I'll do all that later. But yeah, I mean, where do you stop and where do you start with dreams? That's the problem. As soon as you start an idea, you're doing something else. So I'm sure everyone has like 1,000, unfinished ideas. I certainly do. So
I wanted to give you, because you said you wanted to go into it, and I'm excited to hear about it. But I want to hear you talk about this work in progress game that you've shown a little bit here and there, like recently, showing this game you're working on. Tell us about it. Go into it. Talk as long as you want.
Thank you. So I might lose comms in a sec, so I'll just change headphones.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Cool. Thanks, mate. All good. So I'm working on a sort of noir narrative. I won't say cyberpunk, but it is set, it's that kind of thing. But the cyberpunk thing's a bit done at the moment. But yeah, it's just supposed to be going back to a sort of grittier, slower, more pensive, investigative you know, kind of noir experience. So I've tried to give it a sort of slightly evocative look, because the story that I've got in mind is quite experiential and almost like speculative fiction, more so than cyberpunk. But it was just going back to that cassette punk stuff, the cathode ray tube punk. You know, I grew up with Neuromancer, and I grew up with Blade Runner. You know, it's about the grit and grime, and the technology is actually not the focus of cyberpunk, and I think people forgot that. I mean, it is in Neuromancer and everything, but it's about people, and it's about how it affects people.
Yeah.
And I think obviously with social media and everything now driving our lives so hard, it's more relevant. So it was less about neon and flying cars and more about just trying to get down in the dirt, you know, and actually tell the story. So yeah, anyway, it's going to take a while to finish. I'm getting some progress. It's pretty crazy. But the idea is to give it some production value, give it some, you know, there's actually music, voice acting, there's decent UI, there's all the things you would expect. So I'm hoping to have something, you know, if there's another Dreamscom, I'd love to try and chuck a demo up at some point. But yeah, look, it's certainly an evolving process, but I really appreciate people's initial feedback, because I think with all dreamers, when they actually go, okay, I'm going to finally show you what I'm thinking of, it does make you sort of gauge whether it's worth putting all that effort in. So I will certainly be pushing forward.
Well, I'll definitely jump in and just say, you know, if you're doing voice acting and you need somebody, let me know, because one of the things that led me to your work was the fact that I'm a huge noir fan. Like, it's the first thing I tried to do with a script I had, like, the moment I got into Dreams. So I love noir. And when I saw your work, I was like, that's it. That's it. If I could have this guy, if I could pay this guy to work on like really, that's where I've been. And so, like, that's part of my excitement, because everything from your technique down to the aesthetic, it really hits home. And I can't wait to see when this project gets released. It's going to be, from the looks of it, it's going to be one of those things that really, in my opinion, puts Dreams on the map. Yeah, just the shots in this video that you've given me alone. I'm so pumped.
Cool. Like, I really appreciate it. As I said, I'm going to try and not disappoint, but it's certainly I really do sympathize. I have no idea how people are so productive on Dreams and how I've seen people just bang stuff up all the time, and I'm not like that. I actually haven't really put much up, but yes, certainly I really do appreciate it. There'll be quite a few surprises in it. I'm trying to do something a bit different with it as well. But I think the idea is it's an indie game machine, and we've seen some examples of that. But I really think that. It hasn't even broken into the light yet, this software. And I think once we get even maybe another year or two under our belt for all these amazing creators out there doing such great stuff, they'll be able to put through a sizzle reel that doesn't look like a Dream sizzle reel, you know? And I think that's the thing too. And this is no disservice to MM at all. But like, whenever you do see their marketing, it's a lot of sphere heads with sphere eyes and blue puppets and things. And that's great to show that it's really accessible. But I think there will come a time where you need to go, okay, that's almost like the educational and the sort of Peggy 3 kind of way you promote. And then I think it needs a black brochure with Dreams in white with some key images in there. And it talks about, you know, it really shows how this can be taken further by dev houses, even if it's just to develop a product that eventually is for other environments. That's fine. Down the track, I would absolutely love to see the top creators getting either on the PSN store as a rapid experience that can be, you know, made in Dreams but played on PS4. I can really see that's in their roadmap, that once it gets enough stuff, I think you'll find they're going to push it harder. So to all those dreamers that I really think you'll find, they're just waiting for the content to build up, and they're just waiting for the cream to rise to the top. They're not going to discard this. It'll always be a mem maker, and there'll always be all the stuff that used to be on the front page. Actually, they've cleaned this up recently. They've done a lot of work on trying to focus on the slightly darker corners, I think, of the Dreamiverse. So hopefully I can contribute something to that.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, I've said this multiple times, you know, just to repeat on what you've just said there. You know, I think that Media Molecule and Sony themselves are waiting for this big leap in quality of content within Dreams. And I think that this year is going to be Dreams' year. I mean, there's teams within Dreams that's been working on their first initial project since the beta came out. And they've got their teams all together. They're still developing. And I think truly this year we're going to see some incredible creations be uploaded onto the Dreamiverse that you wouldn't even necessarily even consider that it was made on Dreams. And
I completely agree. Sorry.
So once they've got that content, then I think Sony is going to come to Media Molecule and say, okay, here's a trailer. Now put this out. This shows what really can be done with Dreams, because it's very difficult to advertise a creational suite when there's no experience with it. There's no footage to show. But when they've got all this premium content that regular players have come to expect from AAA games, and they see the pure quality of content that can be made within Dreams, then I think Dreams is just going to absolutely blow up. And I really think that this year is going to be Dreams' year for that kind of stuff.
I agree with you completely. And I think too, the PS5's a big nod towards that, because as much as we're like, well, where's the PS5 version? Look at the year we all had globally. We've got to plus 1 year now. Okay, that's just how it goes, and they know that. They wanted to have stuff out too. People also forget that we had a couple of huge audio updates, VR update this year. A bunch of great stuff. Really strong community challenges and a lot of feedback from them. So I agree. This is the year that I don't think it's going to be the top year. I think we're going to see this amazing growth, and then it's going to continue through to the year after, because the PS5 is the platform of choice. They're now discontinuing the hardware for PS4 at the moment. Once Sony fully commit to this platform switch, I think you'll find Dreams will get a fresh push that'll be based on the strength of the content that's been produced. I mean, they would have always said it's going to take a couple of years to build it up. People aren't just going to build great stuff in the first week.
Of course not.
And there's a few high-profile Dreams that have literally taken 2-3 years to make, and they're going to come out soon. I'd love to see it. I mean, I want to see more original IP stuff. I think that people do have to realize that if there's too much fan service on there, that those things, they're great and they're essential to the community, but I think they're waiting to see more, not original IP, but just original approaches to things, so they can, we could see a new Sackboy or a new mascot come out of Dreams one day. I'd love that.
Exactly.
I'd love to see that. This one game that someone did, it just popped, and it doesn't have to mean people have to get successful from it. I think, to be honest, if you're enjoying yourself, then you're spending your time right. Dreams is a perfect example of where you can piss away an iron and then feel like it's worth something.
The only thing...
So I think all...
Oh.
Yeah, go for it.
No. Go ahead. It was only because of a hiccup.
Okay. Well, I think again, going back to what you're saying is, yes, I think this is the year that it's going to take off. I think you're already seeing everyone was a little bit down in the dumps a few months ago, and our player numbers or whatever, it's irrelevant with Dreams. That's not the point of Dreams. Is sales figures are relevant at this point, literally, or Sony not even charging for it at this point, because it's about getting in people's hands. It's about getting people's hands to then create the content, and then MM and Sony, I think, will reciprocate by pushing it harder. And this is included with the work that they're doing with the outreach team at MM. There is actually a team of people at MM that are simply there to push it to institutions and broaden the scope of it. Why do you think they put someone like Jen Simpkins on as editorial? That means they're going to want to start telling people stuff. She's a huge supporter of indie development, and been a great editor with Edge Magazine and PSM over the years. So to get that kind of caliber of people, there's a lot of other great people they're putting on, but that's as an example. Why are they focusing on someone that can do editorial content? Because they know they've got to start telling people about this in a way that isn't just like, it's good for memes or something else. It's got to show that it's grown some teeth and some muscle. And we're already seeing it.
That's the only thing that I would say out of what both of you have been speaking about that I agree, but I also disagree in the same vein. It's I do believe that there's going to be a push when you have this upheaval of just straight quality, but I do feel like they've missed out on the initial, because once you have that quality, you reach this other side of the viewership where it's like, God, I'll never be able to do that. Whereas if they had focused on it till now, you would have seen the people who have made the awesome 8-bit games, the side scrollers, the platformers, the things that someone might sit back if they, don't know and be like, oh, well, that doesn't seem so hard. Like, I think I could do that. You've missed the push of all those people. Whereas once his game comes out, once his game comes out, and you have the stuff that Martin's been hiding and all the stuff that Bad Robo probably has been hiding, when you get to that point, you're going to get to another side that you might not be able to come back from, which is someone looks at it and they're like, nah. See, if you might show them something from back and be like, yeah, people started like this. That doesn't matter. It's that artist brain, that one that makes you, look at someone else's art and be like, Jesus, what have I done with my life? Like, why? That thing, you reach that with a lot of people, and they don't, a lot of people aren't, how would you say, mature enough to look at it and realize that to the viewers, it's, it's just two cakes. They both taste like cake, and like, of course, there are going to be people that hold you higher, but, it's like, I feel like they missed out on the initial push to really show what people could do day one, and they're jumping to what people can do day 500, and that's but even still, it's gonna do good things. Like there's always gonna be an influx. I just really, as a person who's like, still in that day 20, I really feel like they missed out on that, but I do believe that they still have the ability to make it up. I really find it sad that they missed that.
Look, I agree that it was a missed opportunity there, but this is again, trying to be kind, because I do love the way Sony do their thing, but they do tend to market in strange ways, and I think because it doesn't have a character involved. The imp isn't a Sackboy, and you can't try to create that. The Sackboy was just a way of getting people in, and it was never actually a creation tool to start with. It was a fantastic platformer that just did things a little bit differently. But I think with Dreams, it really was about Sony. Like, you've got to understand how much it costs to push these things. These are not cheap exercises. It's in the millions just to put a poster in one city. And also, what's that poster going to say, and what's going to be on it? Like, make anything you want. Now, I actually, to be honest, think they should have just what they did with the PS3. It does everything. It does everything. You can do anything you want. What's in your head? What's your dream? Let's do it today. There's a way of doing that, but I think the public, although Sony and MM2 really pioneered that idea of player-created content in a really useful way with like planets and all these worlds. I mean, we've all made 1,000 things in LBP that are still sitting there, right, to be played today, and it's like 10 years later. Look at how long that took for them to allow the player base to develop and people's ideas to develop. No one ever got rich off it. But we all had a lot of fun doing it. And I think Dreams, they've just got to push that it's not for the extroverts, it's not for the shut-ins, but it seems to resonate a lot with people that don't usually gravitate towards the traditional ways of doing things. So it's almost like a way of saying, well, marketing then doesn't really work, because marketing's it's like a shotgun. You're just going to shoot everyone with this thing and go, I hope you like it. Whereas I think the outreach team, I think the appointment of Jen and these things are pointing towards them trying to find a little bit more of a mature way to push its strengths to the right markets, because it's less about marketing this as a game. It's not a game, right? It's not a game. Even at the start, they went, oh, this new game from Sony. I'm like, their press release is obviously not saying that, because they're afraid to call it a game engine, but they should have.
Yeah.
They really should have. Because I think they were just spooked. I think Sony went, oh my God, we can't say it's like, imagine if you put a word processor out on the console.
But that's the thing, though. It's not even a game engine, though. It's just a full creational suite, because it's a music engine, it's a game engine, it's film engine,
it's an art engine.
And this is, it's an
everything. Art engine. It's the most powerful tool I've ever had put in my hands, and whatever mood you're in, it's got something for you. So I think, again, going back to what you're saying, Will, is I agree they missed their opportunity. But I think the second wave of this is actually based on a lot of strong user-created content. And I think the proof's in the pudding. And as soon as they can say, like, I mean, Art Streamer, I think is a work of art. I mean, I haven't cried at the end of something for a long time. I thought that was just an emotional gut punch at the end. I don't know why it affected me so much, but I was just like, that piece of music and that thing, I just went, that is the most mature end to something. God. And it really, I mean, I loved the whole thing, but at the end I went, damn, MM, you're good at that. It's such a British thing, the making you happy and then making you sad. But it made me realize, I went, wow, Dreams really has the potential to create indie titles that can move people.
Yeah.
And it sounds a little bit sort of tacky, but Art's dream was they've just done one thing. That's just doing one thing, you know. And I think they will probably invite larger studios to come in and do a little signature pack or level or an experience. That would be great to see other bigger studios actually do a little fleshed out thing, a bit like Art's dream. I'd pay for that. I think it's a great way for the platform to start bringing in some revenue.
Especially with all the first-party studios that Sony has under the belt. I mean, we've already seen it with Insomniac. The Ratchet and Clank stuff that's been streamed lately by MM, and they've got so many studios that create such great games under their belt. It would be cool, like you said, to bring those studios in and make unique packs that's from the titles that's made them.
Absolutely, a good nod towards that is probably Tim Schafer's involvement in Dreams. Not saying he was responsible for it, but his name pops up a bit, and we know why. And I think that's because you can feel the pedigree of generations of game, developers, basically. And I think that's a nod to making. What I'm saying is that I'm sure that Schafer people, and again, just as an example, are saying, well, I would totally be using this to sketchpad ideas before we move to our traditional platforms. And that's one of the biggest things. And again, look, even I keep going, games. But yeah, I don't even think the majority of Dreams are games. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's all just, I just love seeing people do just artwork, a still, a moment, a bit of music. That the diversity is the hook. And that's what you were saying, is it's so hard to sell that to people that, I guess the thing is too, you're saying, well, if you're creative, this is perfect for you, but they kind of need to draw in people that aren't, because I think its real secret is that it unlocks people's abilities without them realizing it.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you tell that? How do you say this is what this is going to do to you?
I don't know, but I still am stuck on that idea of a marketing shotgun for some reason. It paints a video in my mind of just people getting blasted in the face with marketing and how that would work.
Look, I'm up for it. But let's be completely honest that like LBP made hundreds of millions of dollars out of costumes, right?
Yeah,
that's how it made its money, costumes. And you would be amazed how much. I mean, it might have just been me because I think I bought them all, but with Dreams, there isn't really a DLC. There isn't even subscription for this thing. I'd pay $50 a month to use this thing. I love it, and all the online services it provides, for instance. And maybe that's a good way of cleaning up the thing to make sure you can have unlimited audio. You can have image import. Maybe as long as you're subscribing, you want this, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But certainly, it's got so many directions it can go in. But I think from marketing, I don't think we're going to see a substantial marketing push, but I think you will find that under the bonnet, like there's going to be a lot of pushing to industries and things to flesh it out, because that's how they've got to make some money back. And I think that's a great way of doing it. But yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see, like, you're never going to have to buy a texture pack or a new tool. They're not going to do that to you. So it's a real gift, this software. This is not a marketing exercise. This is something that someone made, a team made, and gave it to people, literally.
Yeah.
So there's nothing like that. It's heartwarming. I'm just going to check these comms, make sure you can hear me.
Well,
sorry guys, I think I'm losing battery.
No problem. I mean, we're coming up along the end now, but I did want to give you a chance to say whatever you want while I go back through and play the videos of your work, and just tell us everything you need to say to get off your chest, whether it be to Dreams, whether it be to the community, or to give people hope. Just tell us what's real. Oh no, we lost him.
Yeah, we've lost him.
Yeah, we no longer have your voice. We still have video. Yes, there we go.
Yes, I don't know why I did that. Yeah, look, I think again, we're all learning. Even the top dreamers are learning. No one knows everything, and even the developers that are making their own stuff are still learning their own tools. I think the fact that we're seeing so much on social media, we're starting to see people like yourselves and build the community out. Like I said, just keep thinking we're the biggest dev house in the world, and we're working on a piece of software that no one seems to know about at the moment. So in a way, these are the salad days. These are, in 5 years, we're all going to be going, remember when no one knew and we could all make stuff, and it was like a new frontier, and everything was new. There will be a time when we're like, wow, look at it now. It's doing all this cool stuff. But I think it will always be niche. But I like that. Dreams is a reaction to all the tools that we didn't like. And we're going to be, all involved, I think, in a development of this software together.
I mean, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2021 with people. And also I know MM have got some bombs to drop for us. So, you know, we don't even know what they've got in mind for us. So, yeah, I'm hoping that there's a few adjustments to some of the tools, and we'd love to see some output options, I guess, for things like that. But generally, I just think the community is one of the best out there. If you're on some of the other boards like Unity or everything else, it's really technical and it's just a bug fix. Whereas on the Dreams forums, there just seems to be this real sense of camaraderie and the sense that we're all learning together. I don't think anyone's an expert in Dreams. So I can't wait to see, especially if you get some of these clever people together on something. Maybe we'll see in this year or next year, we'll see them pick like 10 of the best and MM will produce it or something and push all these people into a room and make something cool for themselves. But I'd love to see that too.
Indeed. So we had one question from chat. Spicy Waffles says, any words of advice for a young artist? Just in general.
Well, that's a broad one. But yeah, I think just don't get spooked. Don't try too much. I mean, again, start small. And I mean, it's hard because I don't really know what I'm doing. I just think the thing is jump in there and start. A lot of people on Twitter, I notice, they get sort of inspired by something which really kicks them off. So I think the idea is just to, as I said, feed your head, you know, feed your head, and actually just try to use Dreams regularly. I mean, obviously, it's from a Dreams related thing. I find that if you pick it up for a week and then go, well, that was really tough, and then pick it up 3 weeks later, it won't click. And for a lot of people, I've even spoken to a few people recently that said, I really want to, but it didn't click. And I said, just go back to it and just do a little bit every day. It's really, and it does. Then people go, oh my God, right. Okay, I've got it now. I've got it now. So I think just perseverance, literally, with Dreams. It's a tool. It needs to be learned. It's got its shortcomings. It's got its hacks. But the support out there is incredible. Watch all the videos, you know, follow some of the social networks, and actually go through the Dreamiverse. I find I get most inspired when I scroll through the Dreamiverse. If you ever can't think of something, just scroll through the Dreamiverse and you'll find something just that makes you just go, yeah, right. You can do anything. I keep forgetting this.
Indeed. So if there are no more questions, we can go ahead and wrap it up. Get them in now.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people agreeing, and just that skills take time and to just keep working at it. And that's what I tell myself with the limited time that I have. And I get better. I get better every time I come back.
And probably also don't compare yourself with stuff. Like I've noticed a few people have said, oh, well, my game's not going to look like Cyberpunk or my game's. And it's like, yeah, that's like, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars and hundreds of people working on it. Again, we all forget that we're going back to that bedroom programmer thing. We're all single people trying to do the work of a dev house. So a lot of the times people go, oh, it's just really hard. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's like when they say it's like crunch. It's like we're all crunching ourselves. I've got to get my game out, you know? So just remind yourselves that we don't have any of the resources or the budgets, let's say, of what we're comparing ourselves to. And that's when you do see stuff like Nom Nom and things that have been done, and you just go, it's just simple, it's brilliant. That could have been $15 in the PSN store, no problems at all. And that's the thing, is that when you start seeing how simple some of the best things are, everyone has the potential. Everyone has the potential, but you should never compare yourself to other games and other IPs, I think, because you cook the goose before you start. I think I like working in isolation personally, but now that I've started really getting into looking and paying a lot more attention to what people have been doing in the Dreamiverse, it's stunning and it's really inspirational. So I think that's a really big part of getting, you know, lighting that creative fire, is looking at all the other people.
Venwave says, not a question, but thank you for talking with us.
Thank you, Ven.
And Pixel Tuner says, how can you stay focused on a project?
Oh, maybe you could tell me, Pixel Tuner, because yeah, I find the Dreams curve is tools, learn the tools, then learn the tricks to the tools, and then your idea pops up, and then you go, oh God, how am I going to get all that to work? I think it's just the case of just trying to keep it simple initially and then building it out as it goes. I will admit I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, I know what I want to do now. Okay, that's really big, but I want to do it. I've been wanting to make a game since I was 10, and I never got to do it because it was just not possible. I mean, the tools were never there. And I played with Unity. I just went, no, this is I can't. do this thing. So to be in dreams and actually go, you think you've got a shot at doing that game you always wanted to play, which I think is a really good point too. You know, you should be making what you think is missing. Make the thing if you want to make a flight sim, make a flight sim. If you want to make a game where you play as a pair of shoes, do it. You may as well. So again, it's just the perseverance of having an idea is not walking away from it halfway through, or sizing it down to get it to fit within the means that you have. Like, as I said, if you don't have time to do it, there's no point in trying to build an RPG, or at least say it's going to be out next week. This is why I love the community challenges, and I'm going to try. Maybe I'll try to do a community challenge to learn more about that. But no, I think everyone's got a different way of approaching willpower, and I'm probably the worst because I just see everyone else just uploading stuff all the time and being so prolific all the time, and they all know who they are. But I think, again, the good thing about Twitter, I've only been on Twitter for a few months, but what I really love about it is that when you do get someone go, you're on the right track, suddenly you go, I'm really engaged in a project now. I think so. So working by yourself, you've got to show people what you're doing, I think, because generally they're going to dig it. But yeah, I have no idea how people actually manage to get these massive games out, especially if they're just one person. But 2021 is going to when we see a lot of them come out.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the episode. I have truly had my mind blown, and it's I would say my anticipation of speaking with Scott has definitely paid off, and there's a lot to think about right now. But I hope everybody enjoyed it. Jamie, did you want to throw out anything before?
I'd just like to thank Scott for coming on the show. It was a real pleasure having you on, and when your game does release, you must come on again to talk us through your process, and we'll stream the game, and we'll do a director's commentary throughout because it looks amazing, and I definitely want to get that on the show. So thank you very much for coming on. It's really appreciated.
I really appreciate it. And thank you for all your support of the community, guys. I do, and what we're doing too. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to talking more about it as we get a bit closer.
Awesome. Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody that joined us. Remember to follow so that you get the alert when we go live. It's every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 8 p.m. GMT. Hope to see everybody back. And, let the good times roll. Catch y'all another night.
Bye.
Right on. Thanks, Will. Thanks, James. Thanks, Dreamiverse.
Thank you.